welcome to the channel. I'm Steve Hamlin. I'd like to follow up on a video I did earlier this year. Over the winter I installed a WeBoost signal booster in my 2006 Dodge Sprinter conversion van, and now I've had the opportunity to test it out over 2 trips. In the spring we took about a 5 or 6 week long trip to the Southwest, and we just last week returned from a 3-week trip to the backwoods of Maine. So I've had ample opportunity to test it out, and I'd like to give a report on my findings. As far as the effectiveness of the signal boosting, I have been very happy with it, especially on the Southwest trip. Throughout the whole trip, we pretty much had service everywhere we went, and we often had 5G service, so I was really quite impressed with that. I have a Verizon plan. It's an older prepaid plan. It was originally $40 a month. After my my discounts for auto pay and loyalty, I now pay $26.25 including tax, $25 plus tax a month, and with that I get 5 gigabytes of data, all of which can be used for a hotspot or just through the phone, and it has served me very well. The only time that it's not really adequate is when we're traveling. On the Southwest trip, for example, we burned through the data in April. We left in the middle of April, and by the end of April we had used up the 5 gigabytes of service, and we weren't really doing that much. So so 5 gigabytes, especially if it's being used as a hotspot, really isn't adequate. So I tried to find a solution for it while we were on the road, and I was unable to, for whatever reason. I wasn't able to either upgrade my plan or buy a data boost through the Verizon app, and so we had to just suffer through with the 2G data speeds, which was okay, but I had planned on posting to Facebook on the whole trip, and I wasn't able to do that at all. So the 5 gigabytes of data really was inadequate. So the WeBoost worked very well, and for the most part Verizon was okay, except that we didn't have enough data. And looking at the available plans, everything that I was able to find was limited to 5 gigabytes of data that's usable as a hotspot. You might get more that you could use through your phone, but if you want to be able to use it as a hotspot, it seems like 5 gigabytes is as much as you can get. So between the time that we returned from the Southwest trip and the time we left for the Maine trip, I looked into alternatives, and I was prepared to upgrade my Verizon account. But as I say, I wasn't able to find a plan that would really suit our needs any better than the one that I have, and anything that I did was going to be much more expensive, and there was no going back. Once I changed my plan, I would never be able to go back to the plan that I'm on right now, which works just fine most of the time. So I stumbled on the concept of eSIMs. I didn't really know much about them, but I found that I could buy an eSIM on the AT&T network that was data only, and that would give me 30 days of unlimited data for $27, and I could just buy it as needed, and that seemed like a perfect solution. So I decided that I'd use the Maine trip as a test, and I bought a $27 eSIM. It happens that my phone supports eSIMs. Not all do, and you should check to see if yours does before you try to do what I did. But I'm currently using a Samsung S20 Plus, and I think the S20 was the very first of the Samsung series that supported eSIMs, and from what I understand, Samsung was among the first to support eSIMs at all. So there is a pretty good list of phones that will support eSIMs, but many don't. I have 2 older, not that old, but older Motorola phones. I've got a 2021, and I think I've got a 2022 Moto G Power, and neither of those will support an eSIM. So be sure to check your phone to see if it will support it or not. So what is an eSIM? So in order to answer that question, I think it's important to first understand what a SIM is. Most of you probably already know this, but if you don't, a SIM is a physical card, much like a micro SD card, that generally lives in a drawer in the side of your phone, and it's what contains the phone number that's associated with your phone, and it contains the connectivity to the network that you have subscribed to. In my case, Verizon. An eSIM serves much the same function, but it's not a physical card. Instead, it comes in the form of a QR code that you download. It comes via email generally, in every instance in my limited experience, which you then scan into your phone, and if your phone supports eSIMs, you'll be able to find the eSIM in your SIM manager, which would be in your settings, and you can configure it there so that it's either the primary or the secondary. I'm not sure if you set the eSIM as the primary whether you can still receive phone calls and texts, but I do know that if you're using data and you have your eSIM set as the primary, then the data you're using is associated with the eSIM rather than your primary account. So for my purposes, that's really all I cared about. I didn't expect to be getting phone calls or texts, and texts at least will catch up with me, and phone calls probably will too, because I think they're kept on the network for a limited amount of time at least. So once I made my Verizon card the primary SIM again in my SIM manager, I think I would have had access to all of that. Back to my experiment, I bought the 30-day unlimited AT&T plan. Before I did it, I checked the coverage map, and I kind of knew what I had for Verizon, so I compared it with my Verizon coverage map, and looking at the coverage maps, they appeared to be identical, but that couldn't be further from the truth, because during our whole 3 weeks in Maine, during which we were all over the state, from the coast to Aroostook County to Katahdin Woods and Waters, there were only a couple of times when I had usable service from AT&T. Virtually the whole time we were in the state, we were on what they call the expanded network, which means you're roaming. And roaming will not support data, especially on an eSIM. So it was a total failure. I threw away $27, but I learned something, so it wasn't entirely a failure. But I did have Verizon service in many of the places that we went, and again, we ran out of data. This time I wasn't trying to be conservative as I was on the Southwest trip, and so we ran out earlier in the month than we did on the Southwest trip. We had to suffer through almost a week at 2G, which was pretty painful. I had planned on posting to Facebook throughout the trip. I wasn't able to do it at all. So towards the end of the trip, I started looking into alternative eSIM plans, and I found the AT&T eSIM that I bought came from eSIM.net, I believe, which is website only. There is no app that I've been able to find, but I was able to find 3 apps, three eSIM providers that I can actually purchase the eSIM or do top-ups or whatever I need to do through my phone. It's a little bit of a process because generally you have to scan a QR code in order to activate the eSIM, and so far I haven't been able to find a way to both receive the QR code on my phone and also scan it on my phone. So what I've had to do is make the purchase on my phone, then set up a hotspot with my computer, my travel computer, and it comes through my email, so I'm able to then open up the email and scan the QR code that way. A little clunky, and that means that you have to have service that will support a hotspot in order to get it done. So the first place that I found is called Ubigi, and Ubigi claims that once you set up their app, if you have bought an eSIM from them and associated it with your account on the app, you can then top up or do whatever you need to do, whether you have service or not. I haven't had a chance to test that yet, and I'm a little skeptical. It was a little challenging to get the app set up to associate it with my eSIM, but that was the company that I ended up buying another eSIM from. I bought a 3 gigabyte 30-day eSIM on the T-Mobile network while we were still on the road, and I was able to install it and test it in 2 different campgrounds that we were in. One of them was White Ledge Forest Service campground, which is quite close to North Conway. So service there was excellent, even without the WeBoost. The other one that I tested it at was Sugarloaf 2, which is over on right off of Route 302, a little north of Bretton Woods, and also in the White Mountains. And cell service there is very, very thin. When we pulled into the campsite, I checked my phone and I had no service whatsoever. So I was able to get marginally useful service using the WeBoost. So I was able to test the T-Mobile signal, which I had there. I had both Verizon and T-Mobile. So my early take on T-Mobile is that it's going to be very good, much better than AT&T. I'm sure there are parts of the country where AT&T works fine, but so far I haven't been able to find it. I know my brother down in Texas is on AT&T, and it seems to work fine for him. My mother here in Massachusetts has an AT&T phone, and she has service where she needs it, but my own experience has not been great with AT&T, and here where we live in western Massachusetts in the hill country, AT&T doesn't work at all. You don't have to go very far to have AT&T service, but here at my house I've got a strong Verizon signal, but I don't have any AT&T signal. So I'll post information about the apps that I have found in the description below. If you found this useful, please subscribe to my channel and please like the video, and I hope you'll check back in. I'm planning on doing some videos about common problems that RV travelers encounter, especially water, how to deal with water. We camp in a lot of Forest Service campgrounds and BLM campgrounds and dispersed camping and that sort of thing, and the availability of water is pretty variable, and the sources that you get your water from is also extremely variable. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and some of the solutions that I've found. So please check back, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.